Councillor Versallion, you haven't actually indicated who it's addressed to, but it's your question beginning, I'm disgusted.
Thank you, Chairman. I was going to wait and see which portfolio holder turned up. So it's good advice for all councillors here to don't fill in that bit of the box until later. To Councillor Zerny, I think it's most appropriate. Residents and businesses are disgusted at the insistence of this council to proceed with charging small cafes on our high streets with continuing to put tables and chairs outside on the pavement. They've been doing it for a number of years with no problems, and suddenly, without any councillors being consulted, this is now being pushed
pushing
forward.
The limits on embellishment.
So can I ask Councillor Zerny why he feels his council needs to do this?
Chairman, I was always of the opinion that it was disgusted of Tunbridge Wells, not of Heaton Reach. But on this occasion, I'm going to hand Mark's question over to my colleague, Councillor White. But thank you for the question.
Yeah. So this has been very interesting, actually. It was obviously agreed by full council a while back. I was assured by the officers that way back last, I'm racking my brain, I think it was last June, the history is obviously in COVID, tables and chairs were encouraged to put outside. There's obviously a risk to the council having people extend their businesses onto the public highway. We talked earlier about the safe passage of people using wheelchairs, for example, that might have to go over a grate. Well, there's a huge importance and a responsibility for this council to ensure that any businesses that extend onto the highway, the public pavements and what have you, are safe for everybody else to use. They don't impede anyone in a wheelchair. They allow people with buggies. No one has to step into the road. So there's an element of encouraging businesses to extend their business and make places nicer, but the council still has a responsibility as the owner of the land onto which they extend. So this is where this comes from with the licensing. And licensing, controls all sorts of different things, like dog groomers and sex shops and tattoo parlours. There's an element of ensuring public safety through licensing. Now, the government then decided that councils could implement a charge to cover the officer time for going through the process and checking, as licensing officers do. The leader and myself were not happy with a blanket charge of £500 for the first 2 years with a £300 blanket charge for the follow-up 2 years. So we asked officers to look again at reducing that cost to businesses that have fewer tables and chairs. So it was then put out to consultation with all businesses affected. So I am checking with the officers that they have still a list of premises that were consulted on this. So I'm hoping it shouldn't have come as a surprise to many, unless they're new businesses. So that is being checked. And then we have the issue of the amount of time it takes the officers to go through the applications. They say it's about 7 hours. I know you're laughing. I don't know. I don't work here. I can only go on what the professional people whose job it is tell me. If you want to discuss their accounting of their time and laugh in their face yourselves, please do. I'm not going to do that. And that's where this arises from. Now, there's... Okay, I won't finish.
I have a feeling there's going to be a supplementary, Tracy, so you'll get another 3 minutes. Imminently. Councillor Versallion.
Can I ask you to use some common sense, please? First of all, also to challenge the officers if they are telling you it takes them 7 hours to review a cafe with 3 or 4 tables and chairs outside. So We are meant to be, it's not the first time I've said this, colleagues, led by members, and to challenge the officers when they tell us something that doesn't sound quite right. I would implore you to reflect the views and the priorities of local people, not the officers that are advising you. And it's clear to all of us who are in touch with our local communities that this is not something that we regard as sensible or reasonable. There's no way it costs that much, and besides that, you have a duty as a local authority to support struggling high streets, which local people wish to see survive. And suddenly bringing this in after years of successful operation is unreasonable, and you are out of touch with what local people are concerned about and what their priorities are. So my question, Chairman, is will you now consult members and give them a chance to feedback by bringing this to scrutiny, which will then make a recommendation to executive long before you introduce the charge?
So if I may continue. I have been talking to some of my colleagues at other authorities. Most authorities do charge, by the way. I mean, if someone in Wakefield doesn't, I didn't look that far afield, but most of the authorities around here do charge. But I've been talking to some colleagues, and actually I think there's a good way to bring this back to the licensing committee, which is where licensing is scrutinised. By revisiting the policy and actually strengthening it slightly to include some words around littering. So I intend to bring it back to Chloe's licensing committee, at which point everyone can have their say on the policy.